Hello, I'm Joe McCarthy, Tech Evangelist at Catchpoint, and thank you for attending our session, What Edge Computing Means for Your Monitoring Solution. In this session, we're going to offer an overview of findings published in the State of the Edge 2020, a vendor-neutral report that aims to separate the hype from the reality, the marketing from the technological advancements surrounding edge computing, edge networks, and edge clouds, etc. And believe me, the hype is real. In the last 3 months, AWS, Azure, and Apple have each launched new edge solutions offering faster, more reliable digital experiences by moving data centers and servers closer to their end users. The benefit? Reducing the amount of internet infrastructure beyond your control that minimizes rerouting and latency in an effort to improve user experience and network health. The investments in global edge infrastructure, however, raise questions on the Internet's impending transformation. For its third annual report, State of the Edge puts forth empirical research and state-of-the-art forecasting models to estimate the impact that edge adoption will have on the Internet around the world over the next 10 years. Catchpoint, a member of the State of the Edge Collective and sponsor of this year's report, is offering complimentary copies of State of the Edge 2020 that I encourage you all to go download for a thorough explanation of the efforts underway to re-architect the Internet's global infrastructure and move closer to the end user. Here, I want to focus on what edge computing, the harbinger of the Internet's third act, means when it comes to monitoring end users' experience across a digital delivery chain in the midst of renovation. But first, what does the edge even mean, as defined in State of the Edge? When we talk about edge computing, we typically emphasize proximity. With traditional cloud computing, the resources are located many hops away from the actual end users. By positioning compute, network, and storage resources as close as possible to the user, latency can be reduced and can thereby make application delivery practical. But physical proximity is only part of the challenge. Much of the challenge resides in the technology and capabilities of the network employed. Why I like this definition of edge computing is it emphasizes on both proximity between end user and access to service and the network infrastructure upon which that connection is made. In short, the end-to-end application and network layer delivery chain connecting digital services and other end users. As the hallmark of the Internet's third act, edge computing represents the Internet we need to build in order to deliver the multidimensional digital experiences of tomorrow. If the first act represented traveling from point A to point B within centralized networks, and the second act based on the creation of the second-tier infrastructure provided faster and more reliable services through regional expansion of POPs and CDNs, then it would seem logical that the third act offer another incremental advancement forward. Well, yes and no. The excitement over edge computing is the promise to develop applications that are simply impossible or cost prohibitive to build and deploy on today's internet infrastructure. The prerequisites for these high bandwidth, low latency applications is a re-architecting of the internet's infrastructure that provides faster networks and servers in close proximity to the end user. This means the last mile, often the overlooked component of your digital delivery chain, always on the edge of glory, is at long last having its moment in the spotlight, as massive network investments and upgrades are being made in middle and last mile architecture. The new focus on last mile, however, brings into focus the limitations of traditional IT monitoring tools. Today, for the most part, users access apps and services hosted in the cloud or data center via the internet. However, traditional monitoring tools focus on the infrastructure and applications you directly control using an inside-out monitoring approach. That sacrifices visibility into other critical networks and services that lie between the hosting infrastructure and the end users. Basically, all the components that make up the internet, like last mile, first mile, and all the additional services. Well, that's a major problem, as any one of those components can have a major effect in delivering a service over the internet. You'll want a solution that provides a user-centric perspective, so outside in, and includes monitoring of all the components along the user's journey, eliminating the blind spots inherent with the traditional monitoring tools. The limitations of traditional IT monitoring was recently made clear when we detected reachability issues for one of our customers. This issue went undetected for a multinational financial organization's previous APM tool. End users in Australia were intermittently unable to log into the site. These failures were caused by a change made in the cookie header data intended to enhance personalized customer experience and recall previous sessions, but instead caused login failure. For financial institutions, user login issues have posed a high barrier to entry in adopting new service offers, especially mobile banking services. The high-value customers' place on convenience meant that we needed to proactively monitor and test our customers' login portal. We ran synthetic tests to simulate user logins, which soon revealed the login failures that were impacting real users. From an inside-out perspective, what traditional monitoring tools are providing, the user login appeared to be performing without issue. But from an outside-in perspective, the perspective of your customers, services were not reachable. Single metrics like uptime, capacity, or even bandwidth may have been useful when monitoring on-prem infrastructures, but the reality is these measures cannot capture end-to-end performance at the point of consumption, where your end users access your service. In the end, we traced the source of the problem to the customer's CDN provider, whose global load balancer was randomly mapping returning users to new data centers, which generated a new session ID and caused the mismatch in cookie header data. CDN mapping is one way that DEM surpasses traditional APM tools, as it employs proprietary mapping algorithms or leverages Anycast technology to map end users to an optimal edge server. CDNs can also accelerate the delivery of dynamic content. User-generated content and login in pages, as we just saw in the global payment provider example a moment ago, are examples of dynamic content. Optimizing the path to origin becomes a critical requirement for this acceleration. By providing conditional caching, providing edge server hierarchies, and offloading SSL handshake, all contribute to improving performance for the end user. But as we move closer and closer to the edge in the coming years, the need to deploy data centers and servers in even closer proximity to the end users and end devices will grow. And that's where the enterprise synthetic nodes come into the picture. When you combine more than 830 pre-deployed nodes along with placing enterprise nodes at specific locations that are at your company's edge, you'll have the most robust proactive monitoring solution, as these enterprise nodes can run up to 18 different types of tests, from ping to custom API calls. This global testing infrastructure will play a critical role as more and more application developers, service providers, and businesses embrace edge computing. In fact, the exponential growth of IT footprint and global usage of edge technologies is astounding, with APAC expected to account for more than 36% of edge usage by 2028. Apple, AWS, Azure, and other tech giants are already investing in the edge. Other industries aren't too far behind. As reported in the State of the Edge and represented on these two graphs, edge deployment is expected to drastically rise, with global CapEx cumulative spending on IT edge infrastructure expected to surpass $700 billion. Edge computing represents unparalleled opportunities that will drive user-centric digital transformation for the foreseeable future. But building the Internet of Tomorrow, today, requires a modern, proactive approach to monitoring. And, like the edge, DEM's focus on the last mile, where end users access your digital services, is the key to IT monitoring's ability to ensure faster, more reliable digital experiences. There's plenty more to say about the findings published in the State of the Edge 2020 in their relationship to digital experience monitoring, so I urge you all to visit our website, www.catchpoint.com, to get your complimentary copy today. And for the latest on digital experience monitoring, make sure you subscribe to our blog, The Catch Up, and our YouTube channel where my Tip Tuesday series will answer all your monitoring questions. Thanks for joining.